I want to talk now about Scotland's new leader, John Swinney. You remember that one of the many things that meant that Nicola Sturgeon came a cropper was the gender recognition bill. Humza Yousaf had big problems with it as well. MSPs voted in 2022 to pass a bill to make it simpler for people to change their gender without having to obtain a medical diagnosis. Now John Swinney, who this week became the new Scottish First Minister after Humza Yousaf is gone, he resigned because, well, lots of reasons, but he decided to pull the plug on the coalition they had with the Greens. Now they're a minority government in Scotland. So John Swinney has said that these gender recognition reforms cannot be implemented. Susan Smith is director of Women for Scotland. For Women Scotland. Susan, you must be delighted.
It's a little bit more complicated than him saying he's not going to do it at all, because obviously that would be a massive that would really.
He's sort of saying it's impossible because of a legal position, isn't he?
Exactly.
So just talk us through that then.
Okay, so the whole of the UK is covered by the Equality Act, and that is the piece of legislation that governs discrimination, and it has different protected characteristics. One of those is sex, and the definition of sex is the thing that's been slightly up for debate in recent years, and the impact that getting a gender recognition certificate has on your legal sex. And we are still actually taking the government to the Supreme Court because we want clarity on whether a GRC does actually change a person's legal sex. But until we have that sort of clarity, it's obviously not possible to have a different system in one part of the UK than another for going down this legal route.
So do you fear this could actually be implemented at some stage then, if the legal framework changed then, Susan?
Well, I think the really important thing now is that we really need to know what Labour's position is, because in all likelihood, Labour are going to form the next UK government. And the Scottish government is still using the fig leaf that if a future government lifts this, they can implement the gender recognition reform bill as it stands. I think that would be difficult unless the Equality Act was changed, because we know from the ruling of the Court of Session that it was incompatible and beyond the scope of the Scottish Government's competence to bring in this different system in Scotland to the rest of the UK. So I think we'd have to see UK-wide change, otherwise somebody potentially could take both governments or one government back to court again. So I think it's really up to Labour now to say that they are not going to lift this because of the legal issues. And I think the Scottish Government's position now is that they're not going to push Starmer or the Labour Party in the rest of the UK to lift the Section 35, which, you know...
And it's interesting as well with the position of Labour in Scotland as well, because for the first time since independence, they're ahead in the polls, and there is a difference of opinion between the Scottish Labour people on this and some of the people, at least in London and Labour. I mean, this really does depend on how the politics of the next few years, because you've also obviously got a Scottish election coming up in 2026 for the Scottish Parliament, plays out. So how much kind of succour, how relaxed are you about the situation in terms of what has happened, or at least what the new First Minister John Swinney has suggested here, Susan?
I think it's good progress. I think most of it is good progress. And I think Labour in Scotland have now started to intimate that they wouldn't have voted for the GRR if they had the chance again. There are stronger voices now speaking up in Labour who were opposed to it. And of course, this week we also saw all of the Scottish Parliament, with the exception of the Greens, say they stood behind the Cass report, which was really, really important.
Yeah, that was a landmark report, definitely. Susan, Thank you. Susan Smith, Director of For Women Scotland.